Hello everyone, welcome to another lovely WARNO video as we got another WARNO patch today. And it's quite a sizable one, not a full milestone, but we got a good couple of balance changes, which were needed. We also got a good couple of new units actually, and yeah, a couple of slight adjustments to mechanics. Sadly, no new maps and also no bigger mechanic changes, so infantry is still not that great. But Seed, for example, got touched. Seed missiles, let's start with that, have better stress chances when missing. So Seed missiles still have the same accuracy, but when they miss, they will hit closer to the enemy AA, so that they will do stress damage to them, and that they have some impact, making Seed planes more reliable, because even if they don't kill, they at least affect the enemy AA, so that they will kill you less, so they do their job more reliably, which is a pretty nice one. And then we have another smaller change to the reservist trait, to separate it a bit more, and reservist units a bit more from other units. It adds 10% more time to reload, so it impacts those units a bit more, so reservist units are a bit weaker, allowing them to maybe become also a bit cheaper in the long run. And then a good couple of fixes, a couple of changes to the tutorials, to bring them up to date with some mechanic changes or fix some issues that were still left over there, and a couple of small changes to the operations as well, to a couple of bugs that were there. And then we got also now the full T55 series, as you can see here right in front of us, with new models. And oh damn, are they sexy. Like, these T55 models are looking so much better than the original one. And all of them have a new model now. The AM2s, AM2B, T55A, the T72 all have theirs now as well. T72 M1 here, looking pretty great as well. That's the M model, and the normal T72 already were there beforehand. So yeah, all of these looking great, great adjustments. Looking forward to the other team model series tanks like T80s and T64s getting their reworks in the future as well. But here we already have some fantastic changes and nice improvements on these models. And then we go into a quite long list of smaller balance changes and new units. And we start with some French unit getting the security trait, and it's the Escort PC, which is a pretty interesting unit, because I believe it's the only security unit now that you can bring in an IFV, or yeah, like a thing between it, I guess, with the AMX-10 with the 20mm on top. And that is the first unit that combines the IV infantry trait and the security trait. It's not an insanely strong unit, as it only has farmers, it has no anti-tank or anything, but with the security trait, I would say this is a quite worthwhile combo together with the IFVs that you can get with them. Yes, the AMX-10 is a pretty bad IFV, but together with the escorts, it's absolutely worthwhile. And yeah, then we have a couple of other changes to leader tanks in general, like leader tanks, for example, the Leopard 1A1 leader and the Leopard 2A3 leader got cheaper. And that happened to a lot of leader tanks on both sides. The cheapest leader tank now is actually the PT-76, and it's not just the cheapest leader vehicle or tank, it's the cheapest leader unit across the board at the moment. It's a bit of a test run. Let's see how this all play out. It's available only to KDA, but it's a 65-point leader, and that's pretty cheap. That's really, really cheap. It's still double the price of the normal PT-76, but it's way cheaper than all the infantry leaders, and even the leaders in the normal logistics tab. So yeah, bit of a test run here by Eugen. Let's see how it all goes, and maybe you can check this out yourself, maybe find some cool strategies with this cheap leader tank. In general, those have been decreased in price. And then we go through some other units here in the NATO list. Gunners on the American side got cheaper. So you have this infantry unit in 8th Infantry that might now start to become somewhat useful again. It has 3 M60s. Issue is still that infantry fights in general are a bit too long-lasting and a bit meaningless because they stress each other a bit out too fast. But the gunner's a cheaper option now. Firepower is good. 50 points for 7 hit points is still questionable if this is super worthwhile, but it's decent, I would say. And maybe worthwhile considering putting your 8th deck. The issue is that 8th has a lot of good options. But on the other side, you have units that got up in price, like the AB military police with M64. These went up from 40 to 45 points. And there's a couple of changes here to US infantry. The mech rifles got cheaper for the first time in a long while. They have been up there for a while at 75 points because Dragon 2s back in the day were pretty OP. They got down now to 70 points again, so I'm pretty sure we will see more mech rifle play again. The Dragon 2 is still in great ATGM. It was just that they were a bit cost inefficient at 75 points. We go back to 70 points. They started at 65 points. And yeah, they should be quite the interesting price point now. And 8th Infantry, I'm pretty sure we will see quite a couple of these. 18th penetration on the Dragon 2, one-shotting all the IOVs is a big, big thing. So let's see how many of these we will see roaming the battlefield now again. Whilst, yeah, the same thing happened to the Airborne Dragons, who have the Dragon as well. So Airborne Dragon went down from 80 to 75 points, so these should be more worthwhile as well. And Green Beret Leader, a couple more leader units that went down in price. The Green Beret Leader went down to 130 points. Special Forces, the biggest infantry leader squadron, and also one of the strongest infantry leader squadrons in the game, with 3 M249s and 9 Colt Commandos. This has a lot of damage output, and for 130 points, it's getting into a point where I would say, yeah, this could be decent. Before it was just too expensive. Issue is still that you only have 2 per card, but it could be a worthwhile unit to bring around again. And then we have some changes to availability. On the Fireteam 84, the Fireteam Dragon and the AB Fireteam Dragon, they all went down from 9 to 8 availability. And that also means that their veterancy curves change a bit. So yeah, you get fewer on the base veterancy, especially for the Fireteam 84. That is interesting, as that is a unit that we have seen a lot lately. Both in 8th and in 3rd. In 3rd it can come in a Bradley, which makes it especially powerful. So going down here in availability is going to be interesting. And yeah, this should be quite an interesting change to see with all the American price and infantry price changes, if it will bring more variety to the American infantry play, or if we just keep our infantry decks the same. I guess that we will see over the next couple of days. Sadly, no direct nerf to 3rd US, which in my eyes is a mistake, because I think that deck currently is too strong, and I would have liked something there to touch it. But we will see how it goes. For sure, some nice shuffling there. A couple of nerfs to like the Fireteam 84, absolutely warranted. So yeah, let's move on to the French, where the French get cheaper Rolands. And as you can see, that is one of the issues. They also announced in the chat, the Rolands on the German side will have to wait for a hotfix, as they are still on the old prices. They will go down to the new prices as well, which are somewhat competitive. Roland 3 on 135 points and Roland 2 on 110 points. Yeah, once the German Rolands are there, you should be using those guys as well. In 5th and TKS, but currently 5th Blindays here got a bit cheaper. And another unit in that deck got cheaper as well, that didn't see much usage lately. The MX-10 Hot, which has Hot 2 ATGMs. Fantastic ATGMs, only behind the TOW 2 when it comes to ground-based ATGMs. So it's really, really strong. 65% accuracy is top level, range is great, and 24 penetration is really high level as well. yes, same as the Milan, but it has more range and it has better accuracy than the Milan. Plus, it's also decently speeded ATGM, so MX 10 Hot, 410 points, might be worthwhile as a tank killer. Though there were also some nerfs on the French side, which also are super warranted. The Mirage 3E went up 10 points in price. This thing is still a really strong plane, especially thanks to 2 DFAs. It can hunt out helicopters quite nicely. Plus, it has a great speed. So, yeah, 155 points here, making it more fairly priced, making it a bit less cost efficient, as you still get quite a couple of these, but you can't just spam them as easily anymore. And then we have the Gruppe Antichar, which went down in availability. The Gruppe Antichar, really strong unit, double Apilas, went down from 8 to 6 availability. So that is nice, as these units are really, really strong and really omnipresent as well. So that is a nice change there. And then we also have a change to the VAB T20. And that's most likely the biggest change. The VAB T20 13. As you can see, it still has an autocannon, but that autocannon is now an AA piece and not an armored penetration piece anymore. Actually, based on historical accuracy there, as these were more supposed to be assisting in that role and weren't used as they were used currently in-game as cheap APCs with a big gun that most of the time just you used to see behind your lines murdering your real line. That can't happen anymore, as it doesn't have AP anymore, but it can be helpful against helicopters, and it also changed its position, as it now comes as a transport for the French Mistral teams instead of the infantry. So it's a nice, cool unit now, and it's not as obnoxious anymore. It's giving the French some chance of using Mistrals with AA at once, and it's a fairly priced one for an AA piece as well. So I like this rule way more for this thing, and it is a nice nerf to the French, where these things before were omnipresent. Balancing them was hard. You couldn't really go up to 40 points, but they were so easily used for cheese behind your lines. Just put there and murdering your stuff in the real line when they came by. Like basically similar as Foxes, as they had such a high speed and so on, but with a cheaper price because they were not recon. So the new role for the VAB T20 13, really great in my eyes. And then we have a nerf that is pretty big. It doesn't just hit the French, that's why we put it here. And that is units like the Dragon Para. All the GSR infantry, except the Fanspear for the moment, but I would expect them to go there as well. But currently that's just justice for the Rolands not having their price. All of them went down in availability. They don't come with 6-4 availability anymore. They come now with 4-2 availability. So you don't get 6 of these in a deck per card anymore, which is great news. I still would like to see a bit more variation in the GSR units, but at least you don't see 6 insanely strong recon units. Like it's the Dragon Powers, it's the LRS, it's the Spezialaufklärer, and the Spetsnaz GRU. All of them went down in availability, and that is really good news, as they were pretty omnipresent, and they still would be strong, and I still would recommend taking them most of the time, but you can't just push them as a super strong infantry and expect to still have recon everywhere, because losses of these units now matter more, and that is a good change in the right direction for sure. So yeah, those are the changes here, and then we have some changes on the British side as well. First is a nerf, and it's good to see that the British are at a point where you can actually nerf them, and it's fair, because British finally have arrived in the meta, especially 2nd Infantry has been everywhere, and that's also the division that gets nerfed, with the Jaguar Cluster Bomber going up to 275 points. A plane that was omnipresent in any 1v1 match, as it was really cost efficient at its 240 price points. So yeah, 275 cost now. Though there are also some small buffs to the British, and especially their helicopter. The Lynx Hell Arms went down in price, and actually quite significantly, down to 55 and 45 points from 80 points for the Lynx AH7. Went from 80 to 55 points. It is fair point though, as it costs now the same as some other NATO ATGM helicopters. It carries more, it carries 8, but the ITO is superior to, for example, the German helicopters of who carry the hot, like these carry 6, and they or this one carries also 6, and the hot one is superior to the ITO, which with 2 more penetration and so on. So it's basically a trade-off there, and they should be both kind of the same price. Maybe the Lynx could be a slight bit more expensive, like 60 points for extra hit points. That's a big change there. It can eat 1 hit from a manpad and still be standing, but I still think it's a nice thing to check it out at the current price, as the 80 points were a bit too high for sure. And then we have a couple of changes to divisions and a couple new units being added on the NATO side before we go over to the Pact. As Warriors got removed from 2nd ID's Terrier gun groups, which were a really strong unit. And unit that also was omnipresent lately, the Terrier gun group. 15-point infantry unit, one of the cheapest infantry units in the game. And it came with the Warrior. And that was not supposed to be the case, so the Warrior got removed from these guys. They can't come with Warrior anymore. They stay at the same price, but they only can come now in Jeeps and not in the really strong Warrior combo anymore. But 2nd still has mech rifles that can come in those, so it's not like they don't have relatively affordable Warriors anymore. And then they also got a new unit, which is the HSF, a 20-point unit, so really cheap as well, with 10 men, one of the cheapest 10-man units, and it has 3 submachine guns, it has security, but it also comes with the resuscitate, and that, as we just learned earlier, also has more impact now, as it also affects rate of fire. So HSF, new unit here, with new look here as well, and they don't look as old as they should be. Wonder if we eventually will get old models here for these British guys to represent these reservists. But yeah, HSF, a new interesting British infantry unit that for sure has some spaces. Security units all have their right to be there and can be an option, as they can be your makeshift infantry for holding a flank and so on. So HSF, really cool new unit here. And then Berlin Command got a new AML, the AML Gendarme version of the AML 60. And this is now in Berlin Command as the police version of the AML 60 with double MG instead of 50 cal, which is a bit weaker in my eyes, but because it especially has less range. But yeah, also skin change here. The French one with from the parachutists with this lovely multicolor one, and this one color skin here for the gendarme, looking dope. And then Berlin Command lost their BGS in last week's death block. They told us why, but they didn't got it bad, because they got a really great unit in replacement, and that is the Sondereinsatzkommando, the SAK, with a sniper rifle. No forward deployment, no GSR, as these are policemen, so they don't have radar, but they have a sniper rifle, they have MP5s, and they are a really strong recon squad still. So yeah, sniper rifle plus MP5s, really good unit here, really cool replacement for the BGS. BGS still in TKS, still, and these guys here also have the Sondereinsatzkommando Einsatzwagen 4 as a transport option, as they are also police. So, pretty cool unit all around. SAK for sure will be used in my Berlin Command, Berlin Command deck. Really looking forward to that one. And then another change to Berlin Command is that a unit got added for the American part of it, the Berlin Light Rifle Law, replacing one card of Berlin Light Rifle RCL. I most likely won't use this one. It's a nice option. 10 hit points, 45 points, has a law, has decent firepower, decent priced, but you have a lot of other good options like the British rifles. It's a nice new option to choose from though. If you want to have a somewhat cheaper unit with beefy firepower. The RCL units, you still have 2 cards of this, and that's usually the number you used anyways, so it's not a massive change that you lost one of those. But I still would recommend taking the 2 cards that you got here, as this is a great unit for 60 points, with the M67 still being decent. It's not as OP as it once was, but it's still quite good, and this unit in general having some nice firepower all around. And yeah, let's go on to the Pact side of things, where we obviously also have all the a couple of tank price changes to the leader tanks like the BT-76 I talked about earlier. And then we have some nerfs though to 7th Panzer. T-72s got more expensive. T-72M, M1 and T-72, the base version, all went up in price from 110 to 125 points, from 135 to 150, and from 160 to 165 points for the M1. So they are not as omnipresent and as cost efficient as they were over the last couple of patches, which is great. 7th Panzer, together with 3rd US, currently the absolute meta decks, and it was really obnoxious to play against their cost-efficient tank pushes. T72 was just a bit overbuffed, and I think they are at a fair price point now. Like, the stats are really, really solid. The 18 penetration gun, the autoloader, the frontal armor being pretty decent as well. And yeah, they should have been nerfed most likely together with the AMX-30 nerf, which was also absolutely warranted, and they are at a fair price point now. And so are the T72s now. Yeah, could argue maybe 5 points more, 5 points less, but in general, they should be on a pretty dope spot. And 7th Panzer should still be good, but especially since they have the BMP-1s at a cheap price point now, so they are still not cost inefficient as a deck. But the T-72s themselves are not quite as OP anymore. Another unit that got nerfed is the T-55A. Went up to from 55 to 60 points. Not sure I agree with this one. Still looks absolutely gorgeous here on the new model, but yeah, I'm not 100% sure I like that change, because I felt like at 55 points this thing actually was on a fair price point, but it's on 60 points now, and if we increase, if we behave around tanks now that we increase prices more in the long run, that might be fine. And I'm in general for a bit more spacing between tanks and IFVs and APCs, so in the long run this might be decent. At the moment I'm not sure about it. We will see how this all pairs out. Whilst we got a Soviet tank that went down in price, and that is a pretty important one, as it is the T80B. The T80B, the base version, went from 200 points to 185 points. We didn't see the T80B much at all lately, as at 200 points it was just not cost efficient. Everybody just played the T80BV. And then next to the T80B getting cheaper, there was also a small change to the 39th Guards Mechanized, as they got one more card of T80B and lost one card of T80BV for him, separating them a bit more from 79th Guards in their tank loadout. And so they have now a couple more mid-range price tanks, and the T80B for 185 points should be quite cost efficient, so I'm looking forward to see these guys, as they obviously a pretty cool tank, and for 185 points they should be now really at the point where they are cost efficient. Not OP, but cost efficient, so looking forward to see more of these. Whilst then we also got some nerfs to the SU-22 plane classes. One of them got more expensive. The SU-22 with the clusters went up to 305 points. It was a plane that was used all the time and everywhere, so makes sense. 30 ACM on the Su-22s makes them really good. The double 30mm makes them good helicopter killers as well. And yeah, basically all the other Su-22s went down in availability. The Cluster 1, the Napalm 1, the HE 1, and the Seed 1 all went down from 3 to 2, or from for the Seed 1 from 4 to 3 availability on the lowest veterancy. So Su-22 family, not quite as omnipresent anymore, not quite as spammable as they once were. I'm not sure I'm agreeing with all of this, but it makes sense in the bigger picture, and maybe one or two of these can be reverted in the long run. For now, it's a good change, I guess, for the balance, as the Pact air spam sometimes, or the East German plane spam often was quite obnoxious, and yep, that are the changes here. Spetsnaz, GRU and Spezialaufklärer already mentioned, and those are the units that got price changed. And then we got a couple new units to a couple new divisions as well that we got hinted on last week already. And the first one is another sniper unit, the SAK on the German NATO side, and this one here for the Pact, the Afghanzi with the Dragunov and 2 RPKs and 4 AKS, a really strong unit in the infantry tab. First sniper rifle in the infantry tab. Has Resolute as well, 60 points, but yeah, they have a lot of firepower. They have 7-man hit points, so a really solid infantry unit that you get with decent availability as well. So absolutely strong for fighting better infantry fights on the longer ranges, helping out your normal Spetsnaz, which are there for the CQC, and really allowing 35th to dominate infantry fights a bit more, which is where they should be key. And together with Spetsnaz and Spetsnaz OP, this really gives you a strong layout, and then your normal Dejanikis can help out as the baseline in their BMD2s or coming in with the helicopters. So Afghanzi, really nice addition here to the 35th roster. Looking forward to see these guys in action, as I'm pretty sure there will be some strong plays with them. 4th MSD got the Sicherungs, the East German version of, with the same role as the West German Sicherungs got, same price as well. You lose manpower though, but you get Resolute and you get an MG. Sicherungs here, the security trait as well. So yeah, a pretty solid unit, absolutely worth a consideration. Comes in 4th and in 7th, so can help out with protecting the flanks if you want to have some cheap thing that spots things for you. Next to the Mudschützen though, not sure how much we will see them, but they are decent. And then we get a really cool recon unit for the Gruppierung Berlin, the Berliner Gruppierung, which is the Kranzer with Flamethrower. The first Flamethrower recon unit. And Flamethrowers at the moment are the best CQC weapon. They only get 16 ammo, so compared to other Flamethrower units, they don't get quite as much as they have a smaller tank. But they still will be helpful at winning the early fights in CQC. The Berliner Gruppierung doesn't have quite as many, aka Unternehmenszentrum, doesn't have any forward deploy, so they are not quite as strong in the early game with the recon as other decks, but this here will help them out there. And it's a nice, new, unique unit, so looking forward to see these Kranzers as well. And then KDA gets the Reservisten, which are a new unit that is somewhat positioned between their Kampfgruppen der Arbeiterklasse and the Mudschützen, as their weapon loadout is similar to the Mudschützen, slightly more manpower, 2 MGs, couple of rifles, no traits on them whatsoever, and the anti-tank is an RPG-7. I kind of wish they would have something in between the VL and the normal base RPG-7 with 13 penetration, like something with 15 penetration on these and 675 meter range would be cool in the long run. Not sure if there's a warhead that would justify that, but like, I would love that somehow, that they really are the in-between between KDA and Mudschützen. But for now, Reservisten, decent unit. cool new unit, and the last unit to be added with this patch. So also the end of this video. And yep, I'm looking forward to all these changes in action. Looking forward to test out KDA with the BT-76's leader for cheap and the new Reservistan. Looking forward to see less GSR pushes with just their infantry and seeing them more as a real recon unit. And also looking forward to see less T72s spams. And yep, in general, good change. Looking forward to see them all in action. Let's see how this all plays out. And looking forward to the next bigger changes, as Eugen, for example, today in the dev blog talked about the next upcoming operations. And I'm looking forward to see more of that content. As in the meantime, these small balance patches for sure should keep coming. So yeah, hope you like them as much as I do. And see you next time. Bye bye.